Hello, everyone. This is Adam Salmon here from Inflectra. Welcome to today's webinar on Spira 6.9, document views, Odata, and baselining. So we'll be getting started in just a second, but I'd like to welcome you. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get into the content. This webinar is being recorded, so everything we talk about today will be posted on our YouTube channel. So if for any reason you can't make, if a colleague of yours couldn't make it, or it's something you missed, you want to go back over, we will be publishing this on YouTube, so don't worry about that. Secondly, if you have any questions, which was always great to have, please write them in the question and answer box inside GoToWebinar. And basically, we will do the initial presentation, which is a PowerPoint, followed by a live application. And then I will answer your questions after the main presentation. The webinar itself should take about 40 minutes, about 30 minutes of content, 10, 15 minutes of questions, I would think. And we'll see how it goes. Okay, so with that, let's look at what we're talking about today. Okay, great. So first of all, move this out of the way. We're going to be talking about Spira 6.9, and Spira 6.9, that's Spira Test, Spira Team, and Spira Plan. It was released for our cloud customers on Saturday. It was released to our download customers on Friday. So if you're a cloud customer, you most likely already have the new version. If you're a download customer, you can go to the customer area and get the new version. We've got 5 features that we're talking about today. We'll be live demoing most of these, and I'll be talking to you about all of them. Basically, requirements management, OData, custom properties, baselining, and release notifications. Some of these are only available in certain flavors of the product. I will mention that too, so you know what's in Spira Test, what's in Spira Team, and what's in Spira Plan. So let's start off. First of all, the first thing, and again, I just should also reiterate, this is not the only things that were added into 6.9. These are just the major things. So there's a bunch of bug fixes, security updates, minor enhancements. So look at the release notes to get a full set of what's in 6.9. But these are some of the marquee features and updates. So first of all, enhanced requirements document management views. What does that mean? Well, what that is if you've used Spira for a while, and Spira Team and Plan in this case, you'll know we added different views for requirements a few versions ago. So we'll show you this live, but we have this document view where you can see all the requirements written out in effectively a document management style view. All the requirements follow a tree structure. You can see all the text of the requirements. You can see the name. You can see various fields. We've enhanced this view to have some new functionalities. It was a new view introduced about 1.5 years ago. It had some limitations. It was read-only. It only showed certain fields. So this is the next iteration of that view, and we've made some major enhancements. First of all, we've made it so you can now show and hide different fields. Maybe you want to see test coverage. Maybe you want to see the priority, the status, whatever it is, you can now show those fields in that gray bar. Secondly, you might want to show different text fields, not just a description, the name, but maybe you want to show one of the other rich text custom properties. So you can do that as well, and it's now shown inline. So that's sort of the first thing we did, is to make it much more customizable of a view. Secondly, if you're looking at requirements and you see a mistake or a change you want to make, before you click on the link and go to the detail page and you can then edit the requirement, you can still do that, but you can now also click on an item, make it editable, and you can now do inline editing on this view. We've always had inline editing on the tree view and the boards and things, but on this view it was read-only. Now you can do inline editing. So if you see a change, you can then make it right away. This is particularly good because on the tree view, the sort of the default view, you can't edit the description field inline. You always have to click on the detail page. So it makes it really easy. We've also got a new editor in place. This is a CK5 editor. It's a more enhanced text editor than we're using elsewhere in the application. Our plan is to actually replace the text editors in Spira with this new version. It's the same product, it's just a newer version of the text editor we've been using for a while. Another thing that we found people ask for quite frequently, and it's a little hard to see on this, but is to have outline numbering. So if you have a requirement at the top, it's like level 1. You might have a child requirement called 1.1 and a grandchild requirement called 1.1.1 and 1.1.2 and so on. So we've added outline numbering. So it looks more like a document where you can have a numbered headings, and you can now see that directly here on this view. Oops. So that's some of the functionality on the documents view of requirements. You can also print. There's a print icon you can see. We've also added print functionality. And I'll be showing you this live in the application, so don't worry too much. Secondly, we've also added a new reporting system called Odata. Now, as you know, in previous webinars, we have custom reporting, custom graphing, standard reports, standard graphs. That's been in the system for a while, and you can use our eSQL language and our XSLT templating system to create all kinds of weird and wonderful reports. But one of the things that we found was that customers often had reporting tools they already used. For example, you might be used to using Excel to do pivot tables and graphs and charts. You might use Power BI. And wouldn't it be great to get that live data from Spira team or Spira test or Spira plan into Excel, into Power BI, and manipulate it live? So we've actually added that functionality. Unfortunately, in this case, though, it is actually only in the Spira plan version. It's an enterprise feature, so it's actually in the Spira plan edition. So if you are on test or team, it might be a good time to schedule an upgrade. With Spira plan, this functionality does let you live connect to the data in Spira plan and report on it using your favorite tool. And I'll show you a bit more of how this works. It looks a bit like this. You connect from Excel, and you can then get data, and then you can manipulate it in the tool. Now, I'm going to show you a brief overview of how you do that. We have a nice blog article on our website, which goes through in a lot more detail how you can do this step by step. And Odata is, by the way, a standard. So if you are used to using Odata for other tools, you'll feel right at home here. So those are the two, I would say, most marquee features of 6.9, but there are some other major enhancements I thought we should point out. First of all, it's like the song 99 red balloons go by. Well, 99 custom properties go by. So Spira, since at least I think version 4, has had support for 30 custom properties per artifact type. So in a project, you could have 30 requirements custom properties, a different 30 test case, a different 30 test set, test run, test step, and so on. And that's well and good. But we've had some customers that are coming from some other tools, and I'll be honest, in particular, HP or Micro Focus ALM, which supports more than 30. Maybe I think it's 40 or 50 custom properties. And so when you're importing data into Spira Team or Spira Test or Spira Plan, this is in all three flavors, then you would not be able to have all your custom properties. And so when we asked some of our key clients, how many custom properties do you need? They said, what about 99? So we said, okay, 99 it is. So we actually have added 99 custom properties. So you can have 99 different custom properties per artifact, per product template. So that's pretty good. But another slight enhancement, which is going to be very popular, is especially as you have more custom properties. Previously, if you added custom properties, if you look in this diagram, you could enter the custom properties 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so on. Well, as you added custom properties, it would follow the order in which they're listed. Well, suppose you wanted classification to appear before difficulty. You were kind of stuck. You had to remove the property, add the property, which would lose data in the system. So it's a real pain in the neck. So now you've got a position column you can see right here. You can now actually put in a custom position. If you don't put that value in, it will follow the field number as it did previously. But now you can do an override position. So you can now change the order irrespective of the order in which they were created in the system. So it doesn't matter what order you created your custom properties, you can now change and enforce a display order, which I think a lot of people will be very excited about. We've also added support for descriptions. It's not shown here, but if you click on the Edit Definition button, you can also edit a description for a custom property. And now that means that when you go to the incident detail page or the requirement detail page or test case detail page, you can hover the mouse over the custom property name, and the tooltip will show you the description field. So that's another really cool feature. Next, back on our old favorite topic of baselining. In version 6.8 and earlier, we had added baselining. We've been tracking the ability changes and snapshots in the system, so you can create a baseline at the start of a sprint, end of a sprint, start of release, end of release, intermediate points. And you could track at a high level all the changes, but the display pages in Spira Plan, and Spira Team, but not Spira test, you could see the high-level changes, but you couldn't drill down and see what were the individual changes by artifact. And we weren't yet displaying some of the details like association added, association removed, or position changed. Those views are now available in the system, so you can now see from an administrator, you can drill between baseline 1 and baseline 2, what changed at a high level, which artifacts were modified, which artifacts were removed or added, which artifacts had associations added or removed. You can then drill down to see exactly what was added, what was removed, which fields were changed, which association was changed. And with that, actually, we have now finished our implementation of baselining. Now, there may be other things in the future we'll do, which I think we've talked about before, but as of right now, as of 6.9, the baselining functionality we intended to do this year is done. We'll be moving on to some other enhancements and functionalities in other parts of the system. And then the last thing I'll mention, which is a smaller enhancement, but it's been one that we've been wanting to do for a while, is when you define notifications in the system, you could define them from pretty much all the workflowable artifacts, documents, incidents, releases, risks, tasks, test cases, and so on, and also for test sets that don't have a workflow. But the one glaring omission was that you couldn't do releases. You couldn't have notifications when a release was changed, if a date changed, or a comment was added, or a release was created. You couldn't have notifications on those events. We've now got support for release notifications and release notification events and templates. And with that, all the main artifacts now have the ability to have a notification set up. In doing so, we've also added support for subscribing and adding followers for releases as well. So that brings releases in line with the rest of the system. So this is Spira, in this case, it's Spira Plan 6.9. Some of the functionality we talked about is in Spira Test, and much of it is in Spira Team. Just to sort of recap, the baselining functionality is in Team and Plan. The requirements views that we're seeing here with different views, that's in Team and Plan. The custom properties is in all three products. The release notifications in all three products. And the Odata is only in Spira Plan Edition. So now let's look at some of the functionality live. Okay, cool. Well, when you first come into the requirements view under planning requirements, as you know, we've got some different views available. We've got this hierarchical view. This lets you see all the requirements in a tree structure. You can see various fields like task coverage, task progress, the priority. You can show and hide different columns. You can drag and drop columns. You can also edit in lines. You can go in here and you can edit requirements like that. But you may notice on this view, you can't edit the description of a requirement. You'd have to click on the item, the hyperlink, and then drill down to its detail page and edit it there. So that's one of the things that inspired us to add this functionality. Because if we now go over to the document view, which is with the paragraph icon, you'll see we're now on the requirements document view. And this looks a little bit similar to what we had in 6.8. There's a few small things that you'll notice. First of all, there's a print button. There's a show hide fields selector. And there's also this pagination icon here. We've actually added pagination so you can show as many rows as you need. We've still got the selector on the left where you can select epics and packages. And you can see the items under that section. We made it a bit faster and a bit more cleaner. You'll notice it loads a bit differently. So we've improved some of the performance there, which is great. But then if you start to go down, you look down, you go, here's all my requirements under book management. There's the title, there's the child items. Okay, it looks the same as before. The priority field, I think, is new. But what can you do differently? Well, first of all, I can show and hide different fields. So let's say I don't want to see the owner field, because we're not using this to review the assignments. We want to look at the test coverage. Oh, look at that. I might want to show the task progress. So you can show and hide different fields here, right here in the view. Now, the other thing you might want to show is, what about the actual requirement description? So if we go into it, let's click on this one here. I'll bring this one up. This requirement has a name field. Right here, it has a description field. It also has a custom property notes field, and I can just grab some of this text. I'm going to replicate it in here at save. Okay, now if I go back to this view and I want to show that field, I can also show any rich text field inline, just like I can the description field. When you do that, it adds the heading to distinguish them from each other. There's description and there's the notes, and you can now see the two different text blocks are here. If you only have description visible, just to avoid the visual noise and clutter, it hides the description field because that's the only one. So you only will get the headings if you show more than one rich text like that. And if you want to edit inline, you click the edit button right here, and it will now bring up text editors for both this one, the description, and for the custom properties. You can make changes. I'll just add the number 2, and you can then save the changes inline like that. Same thing with this one here. And you've got all the power of this text editor. You've got the ability to change the fonts, the styles, the text size, bold, italics, underline, bullets, numbers, text color, background color, indent, outdent, links, images, paragraph, block quotes, tables, syntax highlighting, underline, and text format. So very similar to what we had before. It's just a new editor. It's going to have some new features we'll be adding once we roll this out throughout the application. It lets you do mentions. It lets you do tags. So we've got some really cool collaborative features in that will be coming once we've upgraded this editor. But for right now, it just looks a bit different. So that's the inline editing feature. And then the last piece of magic we have is the outline numbering. So right now it says book management, RQ3, RQ4. Some of our clients, they don't want that kind of RQ. That isn't how they think of requirements. They think of it more as a section. So we've now got the ability to show outline number. And you can see now I've got this 1.1.1 and 1.1.1.1. If I drill down the tree, you'll see we have requirements 1.1.4, 1.1.4.1. So we now have dynamic outline numbering right here in the system. Previously, you could do it in a custom report, but now you can actually do it right here in the view. And if I scroll down, you'll see it does that. Like that, 2, 2.1. So it gives you that requirements outline numbering right here. So that's the new requirements document view. Just to recap, it has inline editing, customizable fields, the ability to show outline numbering, and it also has better navigation and better pagination, and it has a print button too, which will let you print this in a document form. It applies some special CSS, so it renders in a nicely, easily printable format. Right now, the other views haven't changed much. The planning board and the mind map view, just a sneak, just not preview, but sneak discussion is that we are making some major improvements in the planning boards. The first phase, which will be the next release, is going to be inline editing and some nice UI tweaks. After that, we're going to make some more major changes in the version after that, which will have custom filtering, multiple swim lanes, a lot more flexibility and functionality in the boards. But the inline editing is something we're going to be adding more consistently throughout the application, and planning boards are next. So that's the document views. I'm going to come back to Odata as sort of the final finale. So I'm just going to go through a few of the other smaller enhancements first, just to show you them. There's the custom properties. As I mentioned, if you go to custom properties, one thing we've done for the navigation, so I'll mention it because it may be a bit confusing if you're new, if you're a returning user. Previously, custom properties had their own section. And if I was customizing requirements or defects, let's say I was looking at defects. Okay, I want to customize the statuses. I want to customize the types. I want to customize the priorities. But I want to add some custom fields. Now, where do I do that? Well, before, you wouldn't be in the instance section. You have to go all the way down to custom properties and click on the edit custom properties and then change it to incidents. And it was sort of inconsistent. It was a bit of a relic of the older version of Spira Teams, version 5. So what we've done now is we've moved the custom property links to the appropriate section. So now, in one click, I can go from incidents, standard fields that I'm customizing, to incidents, custom properties right here. Click on that. I'm now right here in the custom property section for incidents. The drop-down is gone. It now is incidents right from day one. If I want to go to requirements, I can go over here to requirements right here. And that's nice and easy. If I want to go to some of the artifacts that don't have workflow, those are listed under custom properties. So test steps, test sets, and test runs, and automation hosts. Those 4 don't have workflow, so they don't have their own section. So we just put those under custom properties, and they are just one click away. So that is a bit of a UI change. If you're used to going to custom properties for all the custom properties, they have been moved out to their appropriate sections. So if you go to custom properties, say to requirements, for example, you've now got, if I scroll down, 99 custom properties all here. Lovely. If I want to change the position, so I want to put the review date or the ranking, I can go in here, make that position 4. And then we've also got the tool tip text. So this would be, this is the display ranking number, like that. And that will enforce the order. So if I now go back to my requirement and refresh the page, and then I go over here to requirement 4, you'll see it's got an ID, the name and everything. When I scroll down, you'll see we're using the order from the ranking, which is great. And the tooltip just shows me the tooltip. This is the display ranking number. So the new feature is that we can have a customized order, 99 fields, and a tooltip. Okay. Next, let's talk about baselining. So just to recap, baselining is the ability to track changes between different snapshots of a product. So to do that, you have to go to the product, in this case, library information system, and you're going to basically turn on baselining. So let's check if it's on. Oops, I want to go here first, sorry. And I can see here, this is the product, it's library information system, baselining is enabled, so actually I'm good. If it wasn't enabled, you would click on view details, and you would go here and you could say baseline enabled. Once it's enabled, you'll see this menu item, product baselines. You can click on that, and that will show me all the snapshots in the system. This is from a previous demo. If you remember from previous webinars, you can create multiple snapshots, and they're tied to a release. So I created a snapshot at the start of release 1. I created a second snapshot at the end of release 1. If I click on snapshot 2, it will show me all the changes made in the system between baseline 2 and baseline 1, snapshot 1 and snapshot 2. And on this page, it shows you these are all the artifact types, requirement, test case, and so on. And previously, we had this functionality. You've seen this in previous webinars and demos. But now when you click on this page, by clicking on the link, it now shows you for that one requirement, what are all the changes that have been made in between the baselines. So it gives you that detailed view, which we didn't have before. Before we didn't have this view, it didn't actually go anywhere. So now you can see what happened between snapshot 1 and 2. It's grouped by the artifact type. So if I go back to my, these are my baselines. These are the five artifacts that were changed. It will say what was modified, what was changed. If I click on this one, you'll see another example like that. What's modified, what's added. You can click on here and you can see all those changes in detail. Now, the other thing would be, what about association changes? Let's have a look at those. So let's go ahead and make some association changes. So what I'll do is I'll go to the baseline and I'll create a new baseline, baseline 3. So I go to my release 1. And in between creating that last baseline, I've been doing some demos and things. So I'm thinking there's probably at least one association change. So we'll create a snapshot 3. And if there aren't any changes, I'll create a snapshot 4. Okay, click on that. And that's going to show me all the changes made between snapshot 3, which is right now, and the time I created snapshot 2, which is about a month or 2 ago. And you can see here there have been several changes. We've got some modification events. We've changed some artifacts. We've added some artifacts. We've not deleted anything. We've also added an association between a requirement. So if I go here, I can click on that, and you can see what happened. Well, we changed the owner from Bernard to Donna. In between these two baselines, we've changed the description. We've added an owner. So we added the owner, we changed the description, we added an association, and then we changed the owner. And in fact, when we see association add here, on this page, it not only will say there was an association addition, but it will actually say what association was added. We added requirement 9 to requirement 56. And if we go back to the previous page and we want to filter, we could say, well, let me see all of the associations. And it will show me just the association artifacts. It'll actually show me any artifact that's had an association add or remove, or that change plus other changes, because we do group it by artifact. So this particular one, even this particular artifact, transferring of funds, we've actually modified it and we've added an association. So you can see different examples. If we go to this one here, we'll see this particular one only had an association add, and you can see here actually we've added several. We've actually added this one release had 3 different test cases added. So it lets you see in great detail what was added, what was removed, what was changed. And this is for the, and also position changes are the same. If we change a test step position, that will show up as a modify event. And when you drill down, you would see the position changes. So if we want to see that, let's go back one step. Let's search on modify. And let's look for test cases, see if we have any. And let's look at one of these. That's a field change. And we look at test steps. If not, I'll make a change. Looks like these are all value changes. So what we'll do is we'll go here to the test case. We'll grab a test case and we'll move and make a position change. So we'll just drag this last one here. Okay. And then we go back to our baseline. We'll create another snapshot of the system and we'll have that change recorded. So what we've done is we've basically increased the power of our auditing functionality. So previously you could see what changed. You can now see what changed between specific points in time that we call baselines or snapshots. And you can also see different additional changes like association adds or removes. And also you can see association changes. And here we can see the position change of that test step. It went from 3 to 2 and 2 to 3 because we moved one position up and one position down. So that single drag changed 2 different test steps positions. We now have full auditability of associations. And this is really important because let's say you had a requirement that covers a test case, you pass the requirement and then you unlink a test case. Well, maybe that test case failed, but because it was unlinked, the requirement's going to show passed. Well, when you take the snapshot, you will see not only did we make a change, we also removed the association. And so someone who signed off on something had actually changed the conditions. So it gives us a much stronger auditability of the entire system. So that's baselining. The last piece of functionality before we get into OData is we also have release notifications. I can't show you too much of this. It's basically just another setting, but I will show you what we have. If you go into notification templates, you'll now see we have a release artifact. You can click on the edit button. We've got a default template you can use for release notifications. And similarly, if you go to the notification events, you can now create notification events for releases. You hit add, choose release. Once you do that, you'll see the fields, and these will be the release fields. So you can pick on these, pick on the roles and the actors, if they're the opener or the creator or the owner, and then you create the event. When that field changes, or if it's a creation event, then the user will be notified or the role will be notified. And furthermore, because we've added that functionality, if you happen to go to a release like release 1, you'll also now be able to subscribe to a release using the subscribe option right here. You'll also be able to add a follower too. So that's something we've had elsewhere in the application, but now it's available in the releases too. So that's an overview of the release notifications functionality. Again, similar to the rest of the application, just added for consistency. OData is another major new feature. And if you to use OData, what you'll do is you go to the administration. This is only in Spira Plan, just to recap. You go to web services right here. And you'll see we have a REST web service, a SOAP web service. We've been adding new functions to those already in versions 6.7 and 6.8 and 6.9. But the new data you'll see here is OData. This link is the documentation that describes how you connect to OData, what the base URL is, authentication. It gives you some examples of it. There's a full actual tutorial right here you can get to. We've actually got on SpiraDoc, we've got a nice section you can read on it. If you want to learn more, you can go to SpiraDoc, go to reporting, OData tutorial. My colleague Simon's done a great job here of going through all the different options and explaining how you get data in Excel and do sorts and pivots and things. This is beyond what I can show you today. I'm not enough of an Excel expert, but it is here. But the basics, just to show you how you get going, is you go to the web services homepage. You go to the base URL for your installation, which is right here. you take that base URL and you go into Excel and you say data, and you go new. I'm gonna get this right because there's two different. They support two different flavors of data in Excel. There's Odata 3, Odata 4, I believe it's this one. So we go from other sources, from hold on, from where's it gone? Odata feed. There you are. You put the URL in like that. And it's going to need to authenticate to get the data. Oh, and actually I've already authenticated because I did this in a previous demo, so it remembers my authentication. So I have skipped a step. So the one thing you would need to do, just I'll show you what I would have done needed to do, is you go into your user profile right here, and you will need your login name and your API key. So you need this API key, sorry, login name, and you need an API key, that one here. Once you get those two, you go to Excel and you put, it would have popped up a dialog box. I've already done that, so don't worry. And once you do that, it then gives you the screen that I can see here, and you can see all of the reportable views in the system. These are the same views that we have in our Entity SQL custom reporting. But, oh, actually, so I do need to. So there we go. Okay, very good. It didn't. So I just go back here. I'm going to do what I said I was going to do, like that. And that shows me the data. And I can now see my incidents, my history, and you get the data live in the system. And I can say load, and that will load into Excel. And you can then use this data table to make multiple queries. This is only one query. You can actually create multiple tables. You can do pivot tables. You can join the data together. And the really nice thing is this data is live. Right? If I change something in Spira, or it's changing all the time, I can hit refresh, and it's requeried. So it's not like a report where you would simply have a report and it's a snapshot. This is actually a live link to a Spira plan, and you can then build your reports, pivots, change columns, do all of that querying right here. And when you do that, it's going to have that available in Excel, and then as the data changes, it's actually going to let you have that live data being used. So you can go in here and use the query editor, and you can see here it's a bit like MS Access, where you can have different tables, you can have different columns, and you can do all kinds of things here, like you can choose which columns to have, you can add columns from multiple tables. So it's a bit like what we have already with the entity framework and custom reporting in Spira. But for those of you who are not query experts and SQL experts, this just gives you the ability to do it in your favorite graphical tool. So if you're using Excel, then you're used to Excel, you can do that. If you're used to Power BI, you can do it in Power BI, and other companies' tools, you can do that too. So you can even do things like you might want to group by the working hours and count the number of projects, something like that. So you can do stuff like that. So we have 12 projects that each have 8 working hours a day, so something like that. So whatever you want to do, it's all very graphical, really visual, and anything you can do in Excel in this query, we can do with the Spira plan data. So that's really powerful. So that's a little bit about the OData. Again, I can only show you scratch the surface of this. There's a really great blog on it, which is available here on our website. Tutorial. Just have a look at that. But it isn't just Excel. Any tool that supports OData will work. So if you've got a favorite reporting tool, this is an industry standard. So odds are you've got an ability to use this already. And now one thing I'll mention about reporting and permissions, which is really cool. Many people have complained in the past that if I wanted to write custom reports, that could be using OData like this, or it could be using our existing edit reports, edit graphs. You had to be a system administrator. And the reason why you had to be a system administrator was because you could see all the data in the system. However, if you're a system administrator, it means you can also do dangerous things like change the license key, change the email server, change security settings, and people didn't like that. So we've actually created a new permission on users, which will let users do these 2 features here: edit reports, edit graphs, and it gives access to OData. So it does these 3 things: OData, edit reports, edit graphs. Those 3 can now be done without being a system administrator. You just need a different permission. So when you go to a user profile like Amy, you'll notice they've got the email enabled, fine. System admin, no, they're not. but there's a new flag here, Report Administrator. When you put that on, that lets you create and edit custom reports, create and edit custom graphs, and you can use Odata. So now you can do that. In that case, I would thank everyone for attending today. I hope it was useful and informative. Any questions about those features, you know where to reach us at. If it's a support question, just log on us at support@inflectra.com. If you have questions about future webinars and ideas, marketing at inflectra.com. You can also write on our YouTube channel comments or Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, whatever your favorite tool is yours. We're on all of them. So again, thanks so much for joining. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll send out a link to the recording once it's available.